Very, very Lobsta Productions.
We are being hypnotized by people like this. Newsreaders, politicians, teachers, lecturers. We are in a country and in a world that is being run by unbelievably sick people. The chasm between what we're told is going on and what is really going on is absolutely enormous.
Oh yeah, dude. There's some Nephilim.
It's like we all know what's going down, but no one's shit what happened to the home of the brave. These motherfuckers, they controlling us now, and no one's talking about how they made us fight and be slaves. And everybody's just walking around, head in the clouds, and won't awaken to a dead in the grave. By then it's too late, we need to be ready to raise up. Welcome to the end of days.
Everybody is slaves, only some are aware that the government releasing poison in the air.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of Nephilim Death Squad. I am David Lee Corbo, a.k.a. The Raven. That is Top Lobsta, the father of disinformation.
How you doing?
Before we get into today's guest, I would like to remind all of our live viewers that this is a 30-minute preview only. Sometime around the 30-minute mark, we'll be going live exclusively to patreon.com/Nephilim Death Squad, where you can continue watching along, enjoying an ad-free viewing experience, gaining access to the episode before the general public, and you could do it all for free. That's right, guys. Sign up for a 7-day free trial. Try to absorb as much content as you possibly can in those 7 days before the billing cycle kicks in, but you won't be able to get it done. Why? Because patreon.com is a treasure trove of NDS content. We are backlogged to the gills, and there is way too much for you to go through in 7 days. So that's where you can go if you want to support the show. Joining us today is Jules, once again of the Greypilled podcast. Good to have you back, brother. For the audience who may not be familiar with you, where can they find your work, and what is it that you focus on?
Yeah, man. Thank you all for having me back, dude. You know, I love coming, hanging out with you guys. Guys, Jules from the Greypilled podcast. A lot of you may know me. I do a few shows. Greypilled is just kind of my brand. I have Elohim Etymology I do with my co-host Adrian West, where we dive into the fallen angels / Anunnaki, kind of their origins and who they were worshipped as over the generations. I have another show called Sound Science with the Paranoid American that we bring somebody on who's a fellow content creator / musician or just like a big fan of music, and they pick out a few albums. We kind of review those albums and listen to them and just kind of kick it for a little bit. We're actually having Shane Cashman on at 3:30 Eastern today, so nice. It's gonna be a banger. And then I do Sunday Chaos every other Sunday with Conspiracy Extremists. It's kind of our just political, cultural degeneracy show that we do just to hang out with the audience and shoot with each other. But yeah, also on Greypilled, you know, I do my deep dives and some little esoteric book reviews, interviews with people, swapcasts, you know, so it's a whole bunch of stuff going on over there.
You were just on Tinfoil Hat, brother. Congratulations on that. I mean, I want to ask you about that, but first I want to say that you got to have Top on the show. Top is NDS's musician, right? And so I think you would be a great fit for, what is it, Sound Science? That's a really clever angle too, because in this conspiracy realm, resonance and frequency and harmonics and everything comes up constantly. So I could see that theme would be sort of the gift that keeps on giving. But can you tell us a little bit? I know we don't typically do this, but
before you get into that, there's actually something that we are working on that does relate to the idea of frequency, pitch, resonance, this kind of thing. It's all weirdly interrelated. So we'll have to cover that when.
Top has just invited himself on your show, and so I look forward to hearing him.
I'm gonna come. Definitely invited, dude.
Can you tell us a little bit though? Because the last time we talked to you, I think our audience has a good feel for you, right? You're kind of our guy when it comes to connecting the through lines between one ancient deity to another from various mythoses, excuse me, and ancient civilizations and different languages. Turns out a lot of the same entities may have existed for different cultures, but just went by different names. But before we even get into all this stuff and the SNL thing, congratulations on your tinfoil hat appearance. And can you just tell us tell me a little bit about it, dude? How was it? Because I also loved that show and then got to be on it.
Yeah, man. Surreal experience. Johnny, XG, and Sam are awesome at what they do. It was one of the best episodes I think I've done. We got into what I usually talk about with the ancient deities and the rebranding of these deities throughout time. And then Sam just kind of started going, bringing up this and that from, all these other angles and all these other kind of conspiracies, asking me a bunch of stuff. And I just was just popping off, man. It was awesome.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah,
I'm really glad to see you getting the traction and making the appearances that you deserve, because in my opinion, the field of study that you find yourself in is massively important, and it's the big connecting glue to all of these different things, whether somebody's looking at it strictly as the psychological operations, or somebody's looking strictly at the conspiracies, or somebody's looking strictly at even the supernatural aspect. This narrative, I think, does a great job of tying these things together. So I highly recommend people go and check out your work, because I think it's going to end up being pretty important in the near future. But we're here to talk about something a little bit not so different, I suppose. Lady Gaga and her appearance on SNL, and which is, I know to the audience, sounds wild. You're like, you brought this guy on here to talk about Saturday Night Live? Yes, please. Just hear us out and bear with us. Take it away, Jules. Why are we talking today about Saturday Night Live and Lady Gaga?
Okay, well, I don't know if everyone has seen, but Lady Gaga was on SNL. I think it was this weekend. And during a skit that they did, they basically summon the Mesopotamian goddess of disease and destruction. Now, not a lot of people know who Lamashu is, right? They're used to hearing Lucifer, Satan, whatever. So when they hear something like Lamashu, they're like, oh, well, this is obviously just some silly made up monster, right? Or something. Same with Pazuzu, who is also brought up, and we'll talk about that as well. The same deity that you see in The Exorcist. And one of the most important things is that these demons are all related to Lilith.
Right.
So yeah. So you got females summoning principalities of Lilith. I think it's something, and no one really, they see it on TV. They don't understand the revelation of the method, and so they think this is all just a funny bit, right? I beg to differ, especially if you know all the dark that Lady Gaga. I mean, she's basically an acolyte of Abramovich, right? I mean, she went into the wilderness for like 3 days. I'm sure it's a number like that, and found.
Yeah, wasn't she in those original pictures when suddenly spirit cooking became part of the conspiracy zeitgeist, and Abramovich was hanging out with Lady Gaga in those photos? Am I right?
During the stuff, and if you notice during that skit on SNL, it takes place in a pizza shop.
Oh, okay.
Austin
you know what we should
that out
do
last
then?
night, dude. So
Can we? I'm going to pull this up, and we're not going to play the whole thing. It's 2.5 minutes, but we'll jump around a little bit just to give the audience some context as to what it is. I actually have it here, Top, if you'd like me to bring it up.
Yeah.
Okay, you got it. Perfect. Okay, so let's let this rip for a little bit. Oh, it's me. I'm sorry. My mistake.
Go ahead, let it rip, David. We're waiting.
All right, here we go. This is a pizza. Oh, yeah, it is a pizza shop. Look at that.
Which one's Lady Gaga?
The black one, no?
Shit.
Behold the summoner, behold Lamashu.
Now, I almost want to pause it right here and ask you, Jules, this visage that we're seeing, Lamaštu comes out, and it is essentially a winged humanoid with the face of a lion. Is this how Lamaštu is depicted at all, or are they just doing a hodgepodge?
Yes, that is one of the regular depictions of Lamashu. I'm pretty sure
It's like a
has
wing lion with horns, right?
wing lion with horns, the teeth of a donkey, uh, and then it has like these breasts during like when you see these other pictures of it, it has like a pig and a dog suckling on each one, and it's holding a serpent. And so yeah, I think this is a pretty good depiction of Lamashu. I didn't even notice this, dude, but they said sin. Now, if you know who Nanar Sin is, I believe this is where the word sin comes from. This is in direct relation to the mother of Lilith, and in that same bloodline. So that's odd that they would say sin. When I'm pretty sure it was 3 times, maybe 4.
Well,
But
I want to say, Jules, I think you're overreacting a little bit because everybody knows that nothing makes better comedy than ancient Sumerian deity references. That is really
right,
what
right.
gets the people going when your show is in a slump and like 1 out of every 20 episodes you have a little bit of a banger. The key to success, what you're really going to want to do is dig deep into ancient Sumerian lore, and you're going to want to dig some old school deities out and put them on stage because that's going to be the key to success. Also, these guys in the background, the pentagram, the horns, the wings, it's like, I guess, fallen angels of some sort, or at least that's what they're depicting. All right, I'm gonna let it rip
Yeah.
for a little bit longer, guys. You got something, Top?
No, this is disturbing.
Lamashu has seen through you.
Oh, great. Now they've summoned Lamashu.
Now drink. Drink of the blood of Lamashu.
Guys, just drink the blood, Jenny. It's free. Relax.
Drink! 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 Now you are rebaptized by the Mother of Beasts.
The Mother of Beasts. That's
Right.
a fascinating terminology to use. What do you think about that?
Well, yeah, it seems to me that besides Gaga being the high priestess of this like mock ritual, she is taking on that archetype of Lilith in some way, being the mother of the beast. I don't know if she's referring to herself, but yeah, man, this is when people if you have a gnosis of any of this stuff, it's very like what Tot was saying. It's very disturbing.
Well, that's the thing that kind of gets me about it is this doesn't feel like throwaways at all. They're using tonality that suggests like sarcasm and things like that, but all of the context, or not the substance rather, of what they're doing, right, with these chalices, and they're talking about what baptized? Did they use the phrase baptize a moment ago? Let me see here. Drink Lamashu, drink the blood of Lamashu. Lamashu has seen through you. And she says, now you are re-baptized by the Mother of Beasts. Fascinating language to use. I wouldn't be surprised at all is if you got access to the ceremonial books that are associated with this ritual, if this is all to the T.
It wouldn't surprise me if these were very similar to the rites being practiced. I see Juan in the comments saying the sarcasm and satire is part of it, in my opinion. Yeah, man, for sure.
Yeah. Well, that's an interesting thing to say. I wonder if there's an obfuscation. Is that the point of the satire? Is to obfuscate it? Because that's satirical tone does do a good job of taking the edge off.
That's
Where,
what
like,
hides the satirical tone hides my racism. So yeah, I understand what they're doing here. You're being
exactly.
yeah. I'm like, but LOL, right? And everybody laughs. And I go, really, the Jews, right?
Everybody knows it's the right. That's exactly what it is. Like the Asian guy being like, "It's for free. Come on, have it." Like, yeah, right. I mean, what do you think is happening here in particular? Because sometimes I get the feeling that these silly little rituals that we watch. I know there was a time where even Will Ferrell did something where if you watched it, you're like, this looks like a, I don't know, ritualistically accurate ceremony.
I remember that. I remember that.
And so what is this? What's happening here? Are we, setting the stage for the re-emergence of an ancient deity?
It wouldn't surprise me if, I mean, all these occultists talk about, these ancient entities returning. It's funny you brought up Will Ferrell, because when he used to hang out at all these parties too,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
But yeah, and that's why I was saying it could be the revelation of the method, them preparing us for the future. And we know that a lot of this stuff is really done in private while they do these like mock rituals on stage. Um, and how many people do you know that are, huge fans of SNL that are going to go around talking about Lamaštu now, making jokes and uttering that name, right?
Right.
Uh, which I think would be a problem, because, like I said, this is a demon. All these Lilu wind spirits, so to say. They all represent infertility, illness, disease, destruction, night terrors, miscarriages. There's a bunch of stuff tied into it. And yeah, it's all kind of on that feminine side too of these deities. So
That's fascinating, given the uptick in reproductive issues, especially in regards to women,
mhm.
and people drawing correlations between our, uh, compelled not so many years ago. And to me, that feels very nefarious,
Absolutely.
because not only, I mean, it's a horrifying thing if those ever really were weaponized against us. And it's a horrible thing that there seems to be so much correlation between those and then like infertility rates, right? Especially given the conversation we're having in the States about, do we have an overpopulation issue? And then Elon Musk says, no, we have an under issue. And there's a lot of statistics that show that we're actually reaching a critical low of, replacement. In other words, we're not having enough children to replace us. And so, I mean, all those things together, it's kind of the Georgia Guidestones too, right? Like control, and these eugenics operations. I don't. It almost feels like we've gotten to the point where we need to. We've set the stage. Enter, stage right, Lamashu.
Well,
Right.
there's a you were just saying that there are some overlaps between Lamaštu and what about infants? Infant death?
Mm-hmm. Stillborns and miscarriages. So
Interesting.
maybe there's some ethereal tie that this entity has to these accidents that happen. I don't know if it's genetic, or like, I don't know who your ancestors used to worship. Maybe, like
Mm.
it could have something to do with that. It could have something to what people are doing in real time. I've talked about before that uh, these entities are worshipped daily, just by people's everyday activities of the clothes they wear. Nike being a great example, the Greek god Nike.
Mm.
Um, I mean, yeah. There's a lot of ways to look at this, but no, this ties in. But the craziest thing, if you keep playing it, when they start to talk about Pazuzu, who's in the Necronomicon everywhere, uh, also an ancient Sumerian demon of a wind spirit, right? Of
Oh, that's
Yeah,
interesting.
yeah. Well, when you look them up, we'll probably get into it. It says that Lamashtu is a daughter of Anu, so it's kind of, you really have to take Wikipedia or whatever you find online with a grain of salt. That you don't see Lamashtu in the Necronomicon with Pazuzu, so I don't know.
Well, what was the language you
Information
used
may be
there a
limited.
moment ago, Jules? This idea of ruling over the wind, was that it?
Yes, wind demons, wind spirits,
Well,
the
you see a
Lilu
lot of
wind
that,
spirits.
right? Isn't I think Satan is described as like the prince of air, the prince of the air or something like that, and there is like this overlap.
Or principalities, right?
Hmm.
Yeah, and you get the same thing though when it comes to like wind is not a far throw from like storm, and there's so many like storm gods, and I know that obviously if you're looking at this strictly through like a Paleolithic lens, you might say like, yeah, well, obviously ancient man was worshiping the storms because storms meant good crop yields. But I find the connection is a little bit deeper than that, especially with that kind of like Zeus through line, and whoever that character actually is. In our estimation, it seems to be a fallen angel, but it's interesting that that wind terminology would come up again here. Why don't we bring this up
Um,
and we'll play
before
through it
we
a little bit more.
Before we go into that, I want to
go ahead.
bring up something. A patron of ours, Robert Wolf. Shout out Robert. He saw the promotion for today's episode, and he drew a connection between the owl, between Lamashu, between Lilith and the owl, which I know that Lilith has like harpy feet, or is described as that sometimes. And then there's this owl phenomenon that'll happen with UFOs, or people see that like in they'll see that in relation to aliens and sometimes things like that. But he's drawing a comparison to this baby monitor called the Owlette. I used to put it on my kid's foot. It measures their heart rate at night, so that like if the kid just stops breathing or something happens, you would know. And it is a very interesting catch that it would be tied to the owl, and you put that on your baby's foot. And also like the owl, the way the owl will like it's one of those rare animals that doesn't just eat its prey. It'll take its prey, release it, and then like let this feeling of terror come into the mouse and then get it again. There's a level of intelligence and sinister behavior behind an owl, not just like animal instinct.
Yeah, and you're right. There is a connection with that and the UFO phenomenon. Oftentimes, it's a white owl that people will perceive in like their window or something like that, and the eyes in the head of the owl kind of like become obfuscated. The line between that and an alien gray's head becomes very blurred. And then Lilith was described as the night monster in the Bible, and you talking about this alien abduction phenomenon, right? Lilith has the feet of a harpy, the feet of a bird, essentially, and she's described as the night monster, so a monster that comes in the night. So do these aliens. So does that white owl associated with them, and that white owl is also associated with Hecate. So Hecate has the white owl, but it also has white wolves. I don't know if the owl's white with Hecate, but I know the wolves are white.
Hecate
And
lines up directly with
it's a big through line, right?
With Ereshkigal, who is the mother of Lalitu in Sumeria and Mesopotamia. So the goddess of the underworld.
Yes, and that's who Hecate basically is, right? She's Hades' right hand.
Yeah. Persephone.
Bitch.
Dude, I mean, I think if anything, Lady Gaga is in some cult of Hecate, right? Hecate, whatever you want to call her. I mean, it wouldn't surprise me one bit.
Interesting. Okay, let's go through this a little bit more. Let's see what we
got. The mistress of insanity. The magician Pazuzu cannot save you now. Heed the roar of the demon dog.
Okay. The demon dog. Man, I feel like this is chock full of stuff. We pause it again. What do we got here? Pazuzu.
Okay.
The wizard Pazuzu cannot save you now. And the demon dog.
Okay, so Pazuzu in this lore is also a demon, also a wind demon, right? Okay. There may be more attributes to it, but Pazuzu was usually summoned to counter Lamashu. So you summon one demon to protect you against another demon, not knowing that once you stop giving this, entity what it wants or needs, whether that be blood, child, whatever, it's coming for you.
That's the one. That's Pazuzu. That's the demon you'd summon to counter. Not a good idea.
Like a nice guy.
Not a good idea at all. No, I wouldn't suggest it.
You know what that sounds like, Jules? It sounds like, take this pharmaceutical because there's something wrong with you. Oh, there's a litany of side effects associated with that pharmaceutical. Better take these other ones to counter those side effects, and then so on and so forth.
Oh, damn. Why does he look like he's got like the of a snake? A snake?
Damn, dude's got a on him.
Can I pull up this picture of Lamashu real fast for y'all, and you'll see a snake?
Oh, damn. I mean, I'm looking at a snake. That thing's long.
I'm going to share this.
Imagine getting snake. He's got harpy feet. Let's pull this back up real quick. Harpy feet, snake. Oh, my bad.
Oh, that was a much bigger snake. What the? That thing was like,
Oh, no, this is a scorpion tail.
Scorpion tail. Okay. I thought it was a big fat dong.
Here we go. Let's see Jules real quick. Go ahead. Show us your dong, Jules.
Look at he's got it peeking up in the waistband. Damn. I do that to my wife when I'm trying to woo her.
Yeah.
I'll put it up in my waistband and walk around the house.
I call it snake charming.
Yeah, this is Lamashu. Yeah, he has a snake in his pants and he's holding two serpents. I guess that's a pig and a dog.
Oh.
And, I mean, so he has and then he's standing on a donkey, and I guess those are chicken feet, maybe. I don't really.
Looks like
snake god.
Ronald McDonald legs, or
It
no,
does.
no,
It
no,
does.
Big
Well, it
Bird,
looks like
Big
the
Bird
ribs
legs.
of like hawk feet.
No,
Yeah.
those are Big Bird's legs. They are.
Big Bird Nephilim shit confirmed.
Yeah. Head of a lion, teeth of a donkey, long fingers and fingernails, and the feet of Anzu, the storm bird. Okay.
Ah,
And you see that last two letters, Zu, that you see in Pazuzu. You see in a lot of other names of these deities. You see that with On as well, Nin. Yeah.
See the
Wow,
leg?
dude.
how nefarious is this gigantic yellow bird actually?
But yeah, man.
I
And
don't like it.
it's standing on a donkey. Now, you'll have people that be like, "Oh, that's related to Christ riding in on a donkey and stuff." I just have recently seen that donkeys are used a lot in occult symbolism. I haven't looked into it as much. It's not in my occult symbolism of animals book, so yeah, I didn't get a chance to look at that. But
Interesting. So and this is Pazuzu, right? This is who we're
no,
looking at
this
here
is
with.
that's Lamashu right
Oh,
there.
that's Lamashu.
So they
Okay.
both have hogs, I
They
guess.
both got big snake dicks. That's
But they're
great.
referred to as female deities, right? So there's your like duality right there. It's the same thing with Baphomet, right?
Yes.
But
Seems
yeah,
to be the
man.
same thing with Lucifer, right? Because Lucifer has some overlap with Ishtar. Ishtar and Lucifer both
Venus.
having Venus as a representative
Right.
celestial body associated with them. Um,
Mhm.
if they really are the same character, then really what you have going on there is um, maybe the basis for the entire movement. In fact, a lot of what we've
Yes.
been talking about lately on the show makes me look at there was a time where I'm looking at like the whole thing in America and I'm going, oh, they did this in the Weimar Republic. Like, that's crazy. It's the same thing. And it's like, no,
It goes
they
back
did it
further.
way before then. The gods that were coming down and ruling over people, they were presenting as both male or female.
Yeah.
And this is the kind of conversation I'm having with Stu Peter just before I came on here, which is why we were late. Also, David was late, which is why we're actually late.
I'm never late. I've been here for 30 minutes beforehand. 30 minutes just staring into the camera.
They said, "Hey, come do a quick 20 minutes." And I was like, sure, I could be there and meet Jules right after. It turned out to be an hour conversation, but we were talking about that, the Weimar, Germany part. And he was like, well, they were having books and they were burning them. And isn't that so great? And I was like, I don't know. I mean, it just seems like something that we do constantly. So like, if that's brought up, like if you have this, the Scarlet and then the beast replacing her, it just seems like a trend that consistently happens. And I'm sure
Yeah.
it's happened in ancient Egypt as readily as it happened, in America today. But I'm trying to explain to him, like, I feel like that's what we saw, the transition from Biden and fake on the White House lawn to Donald Trump, and we have like traditional masculinity, even though it's not really.
Right.
I said it feels like that, it looks like that, and it's supposed to look like that on purpose.
Right.
And I think he disagreed with me, but that's fine. We'll
Well,
see how it goes.
all these entities have a female counterpart, and it's usually they share a lot of the same name. So what if it's like symbolic for them just being like androgynous or whatever? Could be.
I would think so, because if you look at our superstars, a lot of them are androgynous. And I would say that at the highest levels of like Hollywood and music, those people in particular are emulating these lowercase g gods in so many ways. And I don't think it's at all a coincidence then that they are transing their kids and also they themselves presenting in some feminine way or another. It's like when you get basketball players and they're wearing dresses, or when you get like 80s hair metal. I mean, what do we ever? It's an amazing thing that Gen Xers and I guess boomers even will come away and they'll champion their music. They just don't make it like they used to. And I would agree with that. Those were some talented bands back in the 80s when it came to hair metal, but we like deceived an entire nation into championing dudes that look like ladies. Bizarre. But until you look at that connection and you go, maybe it's not as bizarre as it looks.
No, I think it was probably placed there. It's the same thing I talked about on my Patreon episode Saturday, how I think punk rock was a whole psyop in itself. But
Yeah, I think so. Especially where if you look at it now, what's happened to punk rock, where punk rock used to just be rebelling against the status quo. At its heart, that's what it was. And then
yeah.
when
Now,
the LGBT became the status quo and it was being championed by corporations and banks all over the planet, it was punk rock's obligation to then rebel against that. But they didn't. They just became
now
very
these
gay.
kids eat the whole boot.
Yep,
Yeah.
that's
And
it.
now punk rock was being racist and talking about the, and now I do a Christian show. So I'm moving away from that too. See, it's
Right.
been co-opted and yeah, it's just kind of corny and gay now.
Yes.
There you go.
This is very insulting, by the way. Shout out to Mustached Grapist, who says
Oh, can we
David
talk about
talking
this?
about wardrobes is rich.
Can we talk about this real quick? David
What?
still lives in a ghetto trash neighborhood where somebody stole all of his laundry, and he sent me a picture of someone on Facebook Marketplace selling some of his wardrobe, which I actually found, and I put a bid in on, but the guy hasn't answered me. I'm trying to buy David's shirt.
They literally are selling my clothing on the internet. They stole my clothes. I love that shirt. It's one of my favorite shirts.
Yeah.
And they stole my clothes, and now they're selling it on Facebook Market. And there's a pair of my shoes up there too. If you scroll through their shoes, you'll find like a pair of like multicolored Vans. Those are also mine.
The fire ones?
No, not the fire ones. No, I didn't let go of those. I still have those. I love those. I
Wait, do
cleaned
you
them
wash
up
your
really
shoes,
good.
David?
What's that?
You wash your shoes? You put
No,
them in the
well,
wash
yeah, I do wash my shoes. I tossed a pair of Chucks in the washer the other day, but these were actually left there on purpose. These I was just donating to any hoodlum around my complex who needed some shoes. I had too many shoes. I'm not going to tell you. I just had a lot of shoes, okay, and I had to get rid of some, and so that's okay. But I did not give anybody that shirt or my dangerous shirt or any of my other dope ass my jeans. Do you know how expensive jeans are? It doesn't matter. Anyway, please, moving on. Unbelievable.
If you guys want to get some of David's merch, you can go to toplobsta.com. Buy some of David's shirts. I'm actually going to see if I can pick up some of his shirts. That would actually be fun. I'm sure people would want to. Maybe not. Maybe not a good idea.
All right, here. I want to put this back on. I do want to make it a point to get through this eventually because I've not watched the entire thing. And given the fact that the entire episode is named after it, I think it is imperative that we go through this a little bit more. So let's keep it going.
Hold on. We got to do it the right way. Otherwise, they won't be able to see
I'm sorry.
David. That's
Yeah,
all right.
yeah,
Right. We're good. Go ahead.
Good to go. All right.
Birthday. How do they even check if it's someone's birthday?
We send someone to the hospital you were born at. And with over 100 locations on the East Coast, it's not hard.
Hey, is there a restroom?
I'm sure, back there and to the left.
You know what I think is funny about this too? So two things. Number one, the hospital bit, it's very much a joke, right? We send somebody to the hospital you were born at, but Top got me this book. He came to set the captives free. And if you listen to it, this woman is sharing her testimony about meeting somebody who was deep in a coven and then saving them through Jesus Christ. But so much of it has to do with covens embedding themselves in the hospitals. So I don't even think that's actually as far of a stone's throw from reality as it seems. The other thing worth noting here is this is the same thing they do with children's entertainment, where they will fill children's entertainment with esoterically accurate symbolism, grimoires, all kinds of things like that.
Absolutely.
Entities and deities, but it's all got this comedic bent. So even though you're looking at demonic entities, they're rather funny. And I recognize they're doing the same thing here.
Just watched Moana 2 again because it just came out on Disney. So my kids are super hyped. And man, there is a lot. What was that?
I asked if it sucked.
The music is not as good. It's not written by Lin-Manuel Miranda, but the storyline is super esoteric. I mean, like from being swallowed to the belly of a whale, in the belly of a whale or some kind of a fish, her dying and being reborn in response to being killed by a god that controls the storm and the seas.
Yes.
And this god is responsible for keeping an island that connects all of humanity together. So I'm wondering if that's like a point at the god, the real god that scattered human beings to the four corners of the earth after the Tower of Babel. Is that
also more or less like the god of the underworld, and he's got a right-hand bitch who is, more or less Hecate. And one of the symbols that is directly associated with this female character in the underworld is the bat. But they start to make her like kind of a victim. She's kind of a victim. Like, it's not her fault that the big bad god of the underworld is keeping her down, and she's kind of a good guy. And so it's just like the same thing, like the symbolism that's surrounding her position in the underworld. And then she's not that bad, even though she turns into a bat and like that, and it's seemingly an evil character. She's kind of humorous, and maybe she's not all that bad.
What's the guy's name? The god or whatever.
That's a good question. Yeah, see if you could pull that up top, because it felt like he almost played like a pseudo character, like a mixture of a Zeus and a Hades or something like that.
I got you.
But I forget what his name was. But yeah, Top is right. What he did was he sort of confused the languages. He separated all the tribes from one another and made it so that they couldn't have contact anymore.
His name is Nalo, the lightning god.
Nalo, okay.
Nalo.
Yeah, it's I mean, a lot of it is Polynesian lore, so you'd probably have to look at the Polynesian god and then extrapolate from there. But this guy, so he's the storm god. He also keeps humanity separated, but in the end of the movie, he ends up killing Moana, and she's brought back to life by her ancestors. They go around her and they sing, and when she's brought back to life, it's shown that she becomes like Gibberim. Not necessarily demigod, because she becomes some sort of a god. So her parents are still humans, but she's revived as a god of some type. Yeah,
as a Gibor. Yeah, that's crazy, dude.
Yeah,
I heard. my wife told me that it wasn't as good as the first one. So
it was really the music, man. You can't beat the first Moana's music. I don't give a damn what anybody says. Like, those songs crushed really hard. Yeah. And so
for sure.
Not the case with Moana 2. And I think the other thing that I would say about that film is it just felt a little bit rushed.
It was
felt
rushed.
like it was moving too quickly, and I don't know. But the first one was tremendous. But yeah, still chock full of
problem with it. The problem with it is a problem with everything. It's white woman. White woman wrote the music for that, and the music is too over-explanatory of the plot line. So like we're immediately told that we're supposed to like worship Moana, like she's cool, she's a strong woman. So like she is this person, whereas the first movie was like it was a narration between the father of the villagers and the
Disney princess with the little pet chicken. Yeah.
But the audience was supposed to figure out what we're thinking here. The second one tells you what to think right away, and I don't like that. But I thought the story was esoteric enough for my liking. So
that's how it was with Frozen and Frozen 2. I mean, everything in Frozen 2 down to the fire elemental being a salamander.
Yeah.
Everything was accurate as far as the esoteric. Everything besides there being any blacks in Norway. But
besides that,
they tend to do that a lot.
They do that a lot, and it takes me out of my ability to suspend my disbelief. Okay, I don't want to be able to see black people in Norway because I've got a plot to believe. All right, and you're screwing that up for me. All right, let's pull through this a little bit more. Top, you want to pull this up on screen because it's not letting me do it right now. There we go. Perfect.
Okay, well, at least the blood of Lamashu didn't awaken anyone.
The blood of Lamashu awakens Molaram.
Also, he's standing on your, it's red and white, but it's your Masonic checkerboard floor, which is what Keenan is standing on. Yeah, what is it? Let's bring it back one more time. I just want to see that.
This is the guy from
Molaram,
Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom.
Oh, Kalimad?
Molaram is, I just looked it up. Yeah, it's the guy. Molaram was the high priest of the Thuggee and leader of the cult, serving as the main antagonist in Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom.
And I wonder if is there precedent for this being a real historical character, or is it fabricated exclusively for the Indiana Jones films?
I think it just may be fabricated.
That's an interesting thing.
And so it's funny how they take something 100% real and kind of, put that in there with some kind of, some, cult classic movie.
What's really wild is I just want to reiterate, it's like, this is clearly the route to comedy, right? I mean, like, Saturday Night Live is an established comedic institution at this point, and God knows they've had some real flops, right? Like, to me, you could have shot that show dead a long time ago. They haven't provided anything of value in the longest of time. So instead of focusing on bringing in good comedians and making good bits again, maybe even again as a stretch. I'm sure there was a time, but instead of
Absolutely,
focusing on
yeah.
that, you're showing us strange esoteric occult that we find interesting on this show, but without the context, is there really humor in this? Is anybody laughing at this?
No.
And think about the lengths that at least somebody. I'm not saying the actors know what it is they're saying and doing, although I'm not saying they don't either.
I wanna clip what you just said, where you're like, just the part where you said they're showing us strange esoteric connections and symbolism. Is there anything funny here? And just put that like, this is what this show is about.
This is exactly. We make it funny. All right, we actually make it funny. We're better than SNL.
Do we?
But
Do we
I don't
though?
know, maybe sometimes we were listed under comedy. Some people find us funny. I don't know why.
You're hilarious, dude.
But my point is that somebody, at least one individual who set up this entire thing, and I would imagine it's more than one person, had to do like a deep dive, had to understand this, had to do some reading, had to dig out some ceremony, had to dig out some names. Was the juice
Well,
worth the squeeze?
the way some of these bits go is they'll ask the person that's co-hosting, or that's going to be the host, Lady Gaga in this case.
Oh,
Do you
this
have
page,
anything?
okay.
Yeah, you have any topics you want to bring? And then they bring the topics, and then the writers do some Jew magic on it, and then boom, they release it like that. So I'm
it
sure.
probably went like Lady Gaga said, I'd like to bring Marina Abramovic around. And they said, no, you can't do that. And she said, fine, this is the second best thing.
Can I phone a
Lamashu.
friend? And they're like, I guess.
I'm gonna call Lamashu.
I'm going to call Lamashu.
We're gonna get that
Exactly.
motherfucker
Exactly.
in here. Yeah, that she definitely. It seems like that was her doing. It's just uncanny to me how she comes on the show and they're doing a mock and a invocation of an ancient Sumerian deity. Yeah, it's not funny.
Well, that's the thing about it, is it's really not funny. And I don't even mean like it's not funny to talk about it. I just mean like it's not funny. It's just falling on deaf ears. It's not a banger in any way, shape, or form. And maybe it's an attempt at obfuscating or making fun of all the accusations that are being launched at Lady Gaga. But the thing about that is you don't partake in spirit cooking events with Marina Abramovic and not know your. So in one way, you're trying to joke and be like, look, this is what people think of me. But on the other hand, you're practicing these things. We've seen you do it. You do know your. So, it's maybe that's at the bare minimum what this is a poor attempt at obfuscation. But before we go any further, guys, we've given you an extra 15 minutes. Shame on us. We should have never done that. You didn't deserve it. We are now going live exclusively to patreon.com/Nephilim Death Squad. And we'll be cutting the stream to Twitch, to X, to Rumble, and elsewhere. But you can continue watching along, enjoying an ad-free viewing experience, gaining access to the episode before the general public, and you can do it all for free. If you're not there signing up for free at our Patreon, I don't know what's wrong with you, because there is a treasure trove of content there. What was the hours that we were up to the other day, Top? You said like 300 hours.
While we're here, this is how you do it. You'll find the post, and then you'll click the link, and then you'll be in the Patreon.
Check that out.
Yeah, because I answer every single day. They say, how do I get to it? I'm retarded. And then I have to explain it to them. So that's how you do it. Yeah.
Yeah. So step one, you're going to want to click on the link. Step two, you're going to watch the show. So check that out.
Watch this.
You're going to make sure your eyes are open and you're facing forward. Guys, go over to patreon.com/Nephilim Death Squad and continue watching the show. Otherwise, we're out. So let's pull this up. Let's get through. I want to get through this video in order to be able to do it justice here with Jules.
Do I need to cut my
No. Please continue.
No, you don't have to cut anything. Your audience can have it, and that's fine.
And if our audience can figure out where to find you, then they can go there too.
Yes, that's right. If you can find Jules, you can also continue watching this for free. Just subscribe when you're there, you nerds.
Loser.
Okay. So, do we have Fat Keenan back? All right, here he is. Let's go. Oh yeah, he looks like him.
Come birthday Molaram.
You guys, you can't just let Molaram lead me away.
Okay, it's friendlies, Jenny. He's being friendly.
Bring me the cage of false birthdays.
Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya.
You have betrayed friendly. You have betrayed Lamashu. You have betrayed Kalima.
Guys, do something.
I would, but I kind of want to see where this goes.
That's
Me too.
actually a little funny. I'll give him that. It actually seems like the premise is she lied about her birthday
Yeah.
at Friendlies, and that I'll give him to that. That's mildly funny, but still, I mean, it just tosses it's. I don't know when America became comfortable with our forms of entertainment having overt and obvious ceremony in it, and it's strange because I used to get that pushback a lot when I would say, "Hey, look at all this strange symbolism in these music videos," and people would say, "Well, that's just there to create hype and add mystique to Jay-Z's brand." To which I would say, "What percentage of the buyer's market is made up of conspiracy theorists?" And you're going through some pretty strenuous lengths to incorporate this into your media. What's the return on that investment? Because to me, it says little to none, unless, of course, you're petitioning a deity to bring you great amounts of wealth in exchange for, I don't know, some indentured servitude for your lifetime or some shit like that. Because that's the only lens through which I can see you making a profit.
Yeah. Well, I actually wanted to point out something that Valkyrie said a little up in the chat. She said, "Do you think we are participating in a ritual by watching it?" I think possibly. I do think it's about intention, what spiritual energy you're aligned with. If you're a follower of Christ, how you look at it, right? Are you disgusted by what you're seeing? Are you laughing and you think it's funny and you want to reenact it? Where do you stand? Do you believe in these ancient deities? Because I tell you what, it doesn't matter. These people do. I definitely think this happened for a reason. I know people want to say that this is just, skit, this is trolling and whatnot. I have a hard time believing that because, like I said, they can use any other entity, right? Satan, Lucifer. I mean, you don't see them use too many with any particular names. It's usually just an archetypal name or something like Satan, right? Adversary. Doesn't tell you really which Satan, but yeah, man, I think that this was intentional. Maybe they're telling us of something to come. But it's another thing is, when they said whatever hospital you were born in, and then they talk about it's like they're kind of telling us what these demons do, talking about birth and everything. Considering that, miscarriages and stillbirths and all that happen due to who these deities are, because Lamashu, I think there's another name for Lamashu, Abizu. I'm gonna look that up real fast, see where that comes from.
While you look that up, I just want to say that to that question that Valkyrie had, that's actually a great question, and I think it begets another one. And that question is, are there implications on a subconscious level that we're not aware of? So there's this notion within the mystery schools that the masses have already been initiated to some degree. And because we're subjected to so much large scale ritual, if you turn on the Super Bowl, there's an argument that you've been initiated in one way, shape, or form. So what I wonder then is if there is some subconscious implication to watching these things. Is that nefarious? Is it something that we can resist? Are you correct, Jules, in saying that it's about your intention? So does that intention still work on a subconscious level? But I would also say that if that's true, we have been subjected to more ceremony and ritual than we will ever be aware of. And if it is true that it does do something to you on a subconscious level, then it's already been done. And it's been done to the scale of like the entire nation, and in some cases, the entire world. I mean, even if you just look at 9/11 and you imagine that was sort of a, we're talking about like the pillars of Solomon, masculine, divine, feminine. It's destroyed. It's resurrected into one single tower that's an amalgamation of both the previous divine masculine and divine feminine. The whole thing seems like some sort of a trauma ritual. And then we used it to go into the Middle East. In that moment where we all psyoped by a massive Freemasonic ceremony of sorts, or mystery school ceremony of sorts, all of it just stems from this notion of order out of chaos. And we've seen that like so much that like, I don't know if it just happened here while we're watching it. But what I can say is that much of how I came to be awake, which is was through seeing this sort of thing.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, sorry, Top. Go ahead.
So yeah, it just begs the question: like, can you tell the joke? Can you get to where they were going in another way? Like, the reason you tell a joke is because it's in the, I guess the ether you'd call it, or it's in the public dialect, and I guess they're fully aware that this is in the public dialect. Like when a Lady Gaga will present this joke, I've heard a bunch of times people that have been on SNL, they'd be like, "Oh, I floated some jokes. They told me I was stupid, and they said here are my jokes." But this was clearly presented by her. Everybody agreed enough that it was culturally relevant in the zeitgeist. Thank you, Lucas and Redbeard Lilith, for correcting me.
Redbeard Lilith,
hilarious. Yeah, so it's in the zeitgeist. I think it's more of an admission of that. Otherwise, you wouldn't have used it as a cultural reference to make a joke that is seemingly like a throwaway joke about the joke is really friendlies not being friendly. Haha, right? But you're painting it with something that you think is relevant, which are ancient Mesopotamian gods and blood rituals with like checkerboard floors and shit like that. So that's significant, I think.
Also, just to oh no, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, I also think that they do hold some relevancy and maybe even a little more power as far as magic goes, using these ancient deities, the eldest form of these demons, right? The original names. I do think that holds something.
Do you think that they're the original? These are the original names? Because sorry, David, I know you're ready to.
This is very important. No, it's an important question. I'd like to know too.
Because they're like, I know that these entities have an issue of telling you their name, so that way, because if you know their name, you can just tell them to leave. If you call them by exactly who they are.
Right.
So I'm not even sure that Lamaštu or Isuzu, or what's the name of that other one? Whatever. I don't even know if these are the real.
ASAG, there's a bunch of them. No, yeah. I think there's probably mistranslation somewhere, and it's probably not, or they know what the original name is, and they're telling us something different. Right. So we go on this deep dive, this rabbit hole into looking into this one deity without even knowing what its real name is. And that's actually something to think about, dude. I didn't even think about that.
I wondered,
like Pazuzu.
Pazuzu, yeah. Oh, is he's in Futurama?
Yeah.
Oh, that is funny.
Love it.
So I think sometimes we speculate as to like, why are they showing us things, right? And we just speculated heavily as to maybe it's to initiate you in some way, shape, or form. But also, we know what made the fallen fall, and that was the acceptance of worship. And so a lot of this is like, maybe a huge part of it is they want their rituals to be seen. They want this to be done at the Super Bowl at a huge scale. They want this to be seen by, the audience of Saturday Night Live, because in some way, shape, or form, it is like veneration and worship. We are saying their names, and this does kind of, maybe it's not the original name. Maybe it's like they only get like 3/4 of the worship. You know what I mean? But these things live this kind of cursed existence. They want our worship, they want our idolatry, our veneration, but they also cannot tell us exactly who they are, or else if we wise up to who they are, we can use their names to kick them out. And so it's a weird kind of, existence that they lead. And I wonder.
It's
Go ahead.
like the girl that is catfishing, but can never really come from behind the catfish, but she gets that gratification, right? But in the end, when it's like, all right, let's meet finally, and she's like, I can't do it. Like they can get satisfaction, but only up to so far.
Yes, that's a great analogy because they are getting satisfaction, but it's not right. Not nice guy says you can't worship them if you don't know their name and they want you to know. So they're not even getting like the full nut, right? They're edging
Yeah.
constantly because we're just calling them, one of the many names that different cultures called them. But yeah, I think that there is real power in the name, and that's why we don't see these things. That's why they obfuscate from one culture to the next.
Absolutely. And if you look at them being called wind spirits, right?
Yeah.
That goes into the elementals and how uh, the elementals being being created by the creator. I read in this book about natural occultism and magic that they can be corrupted by these lesser deities and used for their will, basically. So,
Wait, you're saying like a wind angel can be corrupted by another fallen or a Nephilim spirit?
No, he's saying elementals are
well,
something
yeah,
different. What would an
the
elemental be?
elemental. Well, okay, they basically so you have the four elementals. You have the gnomes, which represent the most crystallized matter, the solid things, our bones, and this gets into like the human anatomy and stuff. Um, then you have the sirens, harpies, these water elementals. And that represents apparently all the water in our bodies as well. Fire salamanders represent our blood, and then the sylphs or the wind spirits, right? So we're seeing wind demons.
Yeah.
Who knows if they were just elemental wind spirits at first, that the creator, the kind of the helpers of the creator, right? That can be corrupted. I mean, if it's all made of energy, this energy can be manipulated, right? Especially, I mean, we don't know how it was back in ancient time. It could have been. There you go. See the salamander, yeah. And so the air, yeah, the sylphs is what the wind ones are called. They're called sylphs, and yeah, that could be described as fairies, a bunch of other stuff. So that goes into like a lot of Gaelic lore and
Gay.
but yeah.
You know what's funny too? All those images, except for the salamanders, I can't really say, except for maybe oxalotls, which have become really big within children's entertainment recently, and I think that's because of the transhumanist agenda. It's like we can use these things' DNA to potentially regenerate our own limbs and live
Are those the
forever.
clear things or like
Oh,
the
they're
white
like
ones?
translucent. They look like salamanders, but
I
they've
saw
got
one at the
external
aquarium.
gills. Like they have these antennae with these fibrous tips on them, and I think that actually acts as a sort of a filtration system / gill system. But either way, that's about the most I could say about the salamander archetype. What I can say about all these other ones, yeah, there they go. These things have become huge in children's entertainment. For a while, it was unicorns, and unicorns are just directly associated with the rainbow, so the LGBTQ community. But we also did an episode on how unicorns are a symbol of the Antichrist, so that's
Really?
fascinating.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. I think I forgot who we talked to about that. Top, do
Gary
you remember?
Wayne?
It might have been Gary Wayne. Yeah, I think it was Gary Wayne. And so because I just had this feeling that it was weird the way they were marketing unicorns, and now I think it's weird the way they're marketing axolotls. But the only thing that I know that is even relevant to the conversation about axolotls is that they are being feverishly studied to see if we can somehow take whatever allows them to regenerate limbs and put it into human beings, and so it plugs into the transhumanism thing. But besides that one, which admittedly is a bit of a stretch on my behalf, I don't have to stretch for mermaids, gnomes, and fairies. They have all been reduced to cute and cuddly, positive things that we gear towards children in a huge way. Each one of them has, of course, there are blockbuster children's films about fairies, blockbuster children's films about gnomes. In fact, my son was watching one not long ago, and blockbuster children's films about mermaids. But these things are much more than they seem in the way that they're pitched in children's entertainment.
Absolutely, dude. Yeah, I mean, I just watched. Oh, what was it? Which Tinkerbell was it? The one about the Never Beast. I don't know if your daughter's seen that, Top. But they basically this like dog. He looks like my Maltipoo, to be honest with you. But he has like green. He basically he wakes up from under the ground. He has this place where he's burrowed, and he wakes up. It's this dog with horns and a like a armadillo tail or like a possum tail almost. So it's like a chimeric creature that Tinkerbell is crazy. I'm talking about Tinkerbell. But yeah, this guy right here. Yeah, dude, my daughter loves these movies.
Yeah. Yeah.
You
know what's interesting? Why is
I'm thinking there
Tinkerbell
may be something there. Like, why are little girls so fascinated with fairies? Like, I know they're pretty and dainty and all that, but like, is there something else there?
My son was watching the original Peter Pan, like the really old animation Peter Pan, not long ago. And I was taken aback with how much of the screen time that Tinkerbell gets is of her almost having her ass cheek out. It's like really weird. Like they took Tinkerbell from the jump and they made this little tiny green chick like hypersexualized, even back when that would have been probably a little bit I don't know what you would call it, like taboo, more taboo, right?
You just made me think of something. Sorry, I
No,
kind of
please go
spurred
ahead.
out whenever this happened. So Peter Pan, right? He's in a green suit.
Son of a bitch.
This is the archetypal green man, one of many that they put in pop culture. Tinkerbell, y'all know what absinthe is, right?
Oh, it's
the
that
green fairy.
Yes, yes.
Right? You hallucinate and you see this green fairy. Yeah. Yeah, dude. Wow. I got to do like some kind of Disney episode or something.
I just
have to dive deeper into that stuff.
Royal Deluxe says Romeo and Juliet was not a blockbuster. I don't think anything is a blockbuster anymore. I use that euphemism like, just passively, just to say like, big movies that kids see. But yeah, nothing. We haven't had a blockbuster in forever. Yeah, that's weird though, man. I mean, and it tracks. Is Peter Pan's Disney, right? Yeah.
Also, Pan being Pan, son of Hermes.
Yes.
Where the word pandemonium comes from, right?
Right.
Yeah, it's stuff that you don't see at first, right? Like no one sees that stuff when they first watch it. You got to
no. It took me many watch throughs to detect that there was a giant golden on the cover of The Little Mermaid. These are these things that go over your head. You were talking about wind elementals before, and I thought that was interesting because in the book of Revelation, it talks about 4 angels at the 4 corners of the earth restraining the 4 winds. And I just can't help but like once we start dealing with this conversation about entities or elementals, obviously this all exists in a realm where angels exist. And to restrain the 4 winds, I don't know. To me, I just feel like there's something there that maybe does connect, but I'm not quite seeing it. Does that ring any bells to you, or you think it's maybe
so you have the 4 elementals, the 4 winds, 4 directions, the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse, 4 points on a cross, 4 heads on a cherubim, 4 corners in a square. So like 4 I was actually on with the Occult Reject Sunday, and one of them was talking about how 4 is a very esoteric number, and I knew that, but not I didn't know it was so esoteric as it is. I don't know. That has to be something else that I have to look into, man. I'm still kind of you brought up the golden on the Little Mermaid cover, and I automatically just think Osiris.
Yep.
Yeah,
The golden
I
palace.
Dude, yeah, I didn't even think about that.
Yeah,
Sorry.
well, I mean, these, especially Disney, and you're right. I mean, I know Thomas Paranoid American does quite a bit on Disney. It's
Occult
something
Disney.
that we haven't done on our show. I'd love to do a big presentation on just how wild Disney actually gets, because much like check it out, man. It's a dong. It was so funny when me and my friends, we were like 12 and we had heard about it, and we rushed to my buddy's trailer, and he's like, I have the original in the house. And we rushed in there, dug through it, and we pulled out one. Dude had 2 copies. The first one didn't have it. And he was like, no, that's a newer one. And we went digging again and then found and sure enough, big golden dong right on the cover. And that day we sat down, we watched the scene with Aladdin where a disembodied voice whispers, all good teens take off their clothes. And then we even saw the Lion King. Yep, we saw the Lion King as well. But besides that, because that's like of a sexual nature, and obviously like sexuality, sex magic, occultism, esoteric, like all that blends together. But you can kind of almost look at that as a standalone sex thing, except for the golden phallus and the Horus connection there. But they do this a lot within Disney films, and it's very much the same thing that we're talking about here with the SNL skit, which is to say somebody had to do a deep dive, somebody had to actually have some peripheral knowledge of this topic that they're exploring on this skit, and it's not even funny. So what's the point? So you do this deep dive, you present it accurately, and then it still isn't funny. Well, Disney, they're not trying to be funny all the time, but you do have to ask yourself, when it comes to their accuracy with their esoteric information, what's the point? And I watched on Timeline Cleanse a couple of weeks ago an old video.
What's Timeline?
What's that? Oh, Timeline Cleanse. It's it's a wholesome family show, and probably nobody should watch it, but if you do, watch it with the kids. So in this short skit, this Disney skit, it's Donald Duck, and he is in Greece, and he's knocking on the wall of a it literally just looks like a rock wall, and the rock wall opens, and he enters into what is like a cult based off of Pythagoras, right? So it's a numerology cult, and what they start doing is they put a symbol on his hand, he wears a cloak, and they bring him into the cult, and they start explaining to him the significance of not only the pentagram and the triangle and the rectangle and the golden ratio / Fibonacci sequence. Like they start explaining to him the significance of sacred geometry and numerology as it applies to our realm. And it was like actually really well done. I was like, this is a great way to learn this.
I've seen
but
it.
It was so old. We're talking maybe like the 50s or 60s. And it's like, maybe that's where Disney's concerns really lie. And I don't know. Maybe they haven't stopped it either, because we're talking about Moana 2, and we just listed all those deities and the implications. Is this a retelling of the Tower of Babel or something like that? Like, they never stop doing that.
Absolutely, dude. It's just the rebranding over and over. It's the same thing with the names. You see it with the stories as well. It's fascinating, dude. It's one thing that I love diving into. But yeah, this dude, I mean, you could talk all day about, because you got Asag, Galu. There's a bunch of these different wind demons, apparently, So
would you be interested in doing that, Jules? Come back on sometime soon, and we'll bring, we got to bring some imagery, we got to bring some video, we got to show people that this is what Disney's doing, because a lot of people know about
the
Little Mermaid or this and that. But like, I don't know if this is what it's actually called. Def Not Little Monster says Math Magic Land. I don't know if that's the name of the skit or if he's just making a joke. But that short film with Donald Duck and that Pythagoras cult is huge. It's profound, because you look at it and you go, clearly Disney dumped in the resources for animators, and all the time animating is not easy. It's a very expensive undertaking, and they undertook it just to present this. Like, that's a crazy notion. So okay, absolutely. Yeah, it's the name of the Donald Duck episode. Awesome. I would love to in the future go through that with you, Jules. Maybe we'll even recruit Thomas, the Paranoid American, banger shirt, by the way.
Oh yeah, yeah. Everybody go to paranoidamerican.com after you go to toplobster.com though.
Do it at the same time.
Yeah, there you go.
Close your eyes.
But no, man, I'd love to do that. That sounds awesome, dude. Hell yeah. I'm down for whatever you guys want to do. If y'all, whenever y'all need to have me on, can't always promise I can get off work, but I can try. So.
Yeah, Jules took off work just for this show today. No, that's not true, right? You had off today, I think you said.
I had the show with Cashman, and my wife had to go back to work today. So.
Okay. So you actually took it off. So okay, just to bring it back to this Lamashu narrative here, or whatever the hell we just watched in the form of Saturday Night Live. When it comes to overlaps between other deities, Lamashu, I know we mentioned a little bit about Lilith, but can we explore that topic a little bit more?
Absolutely. So my co-host Adrian sent me a Bizou. Now, this is the name of a female demon. She was blamed for miscarriages and infant mortality, said to be motivated by envy, as she herself was infertile. Now, in Coptic Egypt, she was identified with Alabasandria, and the Byzantine culture, Gailu. I don't know any of those names, but this is who Adrian said lines up the most with Lamashu. I kind of asked him a little bit. Okay, is pictured on amulets with fish or serpent-like attributes. Okay, so all right, here we go, guys. All right, appears to be complete. So it appears to be the corrupted form of the Greek abyssos, or abyss, right? The Greek itself was borrowed from Akkadian Apsu or Sumerian Abzu. Now, the Abzu is the great deep, also referred to as, I think, the great abyss, right? From Revelations, it says,
right.
Yeah. It's translated as the deep, or the bottomless pit, right? Of hell. And this is where one side of this Anunnaki pantheon kind of resides, is in the Abzu, which I think is inside the earth, also underwater.
This would be the same thing as Tartarus, wouldn't it?
Yes.
Interesting.
Sheol.
This thing keeps coming up, man. This keeps coming up. This is
Gehenna. Well, Gehenna.
Massive. What is this? What is this horrifying thing?
Gehenna may be a valley somewhere, but it very well could be. I'm crazy. I think the earth is hollow, right? So
this is Abizu, the child taker. This reminds me of that Vedic deity with all the serpents coming off of his back. Who is that? That's not Shiva, is it? That's like
Kali Ma, maybe. I don't.
Kali Ma, yeah.
I think it may be. Yeah.
That's what that dude just called himself.
Right.
Hold on a second.
I heard that too.
Kali Ma, goddess. Oh, schnapps. Wait a second here. Yeah. Okie dokie. Kali Ma is depicted, it seems, sometimes with the snakes, not always with the snakes, sometimes with multiple arms, sometimes with just two arms. Interesting. And yeah, that is what the guy called himself, but he called himself that based off of like the Indiana Jones trope, which now that there's a connection there, I don't think that it's an Indiana Jones trope.
So the female demons, among whom Lilith is the best known, are often said to have come from the primeval sea. In ancient Greek religion, female sea monsters that combine allure and deadliness may also derive from this tradition, including the Gorgons, who were daughters of the old sea god Phorcys, sirens, harpies, and even water nymphs and nereids, mermaids. I guess it's just another name for mermaids. So this ties to like the entity on the front of the Starbucks cup, right?
Yes, yeah.
The mermaid, who a lot of people have said was Lilith, but Top had mentioned earlier that Lilith was a harpy, or her first form was a harpy, right? Now, I have brought up in Elohim etymology that, if these entities had any kind of ability, so to say, that maybe she could shapeshift, right? Or learn to morph into something else that's in her genetics, because you see this a lot in these ancient stories with the sea gods and whatnot. Now, this gets into the Greek Septuagint and all these other like Poseidon, Triton, which is on the exact same side of the line that Enki is. Her father, Lilith's father, Nergal, being a son of Enki. And this is Poseidon, Ea. Yeah. So I don't know. I think there's something having to do with the ocean, maybe with this deity.
Man, I mean, it almost seems like all deities, right? Because so many of them here. I want to actually show this image. Let me just share this instead. Boom. So we saw that image before. Top, can you bring not the one I just put up, the one before of that skeletal deity that had snakes on her back? I think it was being shared from Jules. And then I want to show the contrast between that deity and then what we're looking at here when it comes to well, actually here, let's
I can bring that back up if I need to.
okay, boom. So that one,
This
right?
one, right?
That's the exact one. And then bring up the one from my screen share.
Holy.
And if you read it here, it says that, give me 1 second. In Hindu mythology, snakes, particularly the cobra, are often associated with the goddess Kali, sometimes adorning her as ornaments. I wonder if what if the goddess Kali has anything to do with childbirth.
Well, I was looking at this relation to the Gorgons, and the Gorgons would be Medusa.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah,
That's
the
right.
three monstrous sisters. So the snakes, dude. Yeah, that lines up. This
And
lines
it's
up.
funny too, because the snake keeps showing itself, and who are we in enmity with? Is that the correct word? Enmity?
Maybe.
With the seed of the serpent.
Yeah. Hold on. I'm gonna do I need to bring that other image back up?
Which one is that? The one with the skeletal
Lamashu. The original one I pulled up.
Oh, the big demonic one with the bird legs?
Yeah, that one.
Yeah, bring up bird legs. I want to see bird legs again.
Big Bird. Somebody bring up
Bird.
Big Bird.
Let me bring up Big Bird.
So let's see. Oh, there's many depictions. I'm gonna pull this other one up and we'll see. Yeah. The legs are very similar, kind of like harpy, like in a way. So
On Lamashu's legs?
I'm about
Oh
to
yeah,
pull.
they're 100% harpy like. It looks like Big Bird. 100%.
This is a different kind of the legs are more brown than this one.
Oh, okay, we
But
have something here that Jules is sharing.
Yeah. Here we go. Let's pull that up. Sorry.
That's all right. Yeah,
So
but it still looks to have talons. So they look brown in this depiction, but the toes, especially how it has that, if you look at the position of my hand, it would be like a rear toe, right? So if you're basically if you had a toe hanging off your heel, which is birds have that. Even there, look at that bottom left-hand visage. That sort of I got a hieroglyph. Every single one of them, you could tell he's got a split foot. So he's got a talon in the back and he's got talons in the front.
Absolutely.
The upper right-hand corner image too from the British Museum, you can still see it as he's on the donkey. He's got toes hanging off the back and front of his foot. And yeah, specifically his legs look ribbed there.
Mm-hmm.
I would say, yeah, that's harpy.
Almost looks like he has like plumage on his legs as well. Like some kind of feather. And there's that snake in his pants.
Yep, there's his dong peeking out. Can't just tuck that thing away. Unbelievable. It when you look at all this and you look at the through lines from one deity to another in all these different cultures, and you look at the similarities between them and then like these other parallel deities, it's like we're really genuinely dealing with a family, which checks out, right? That tracks, but these are all genetically connected entities. They are the serpent seed.
Yeah, it's almost to the point where it's not like I'm not even surprised anymore.
No.
You're just like continually showing, and I'm like, yeah, mm-hmm.
Yeah.
They're related for sure.
In,
It's
in every depiction, it's the same. But yeah, and I mean that this goes back to the serpent seed with again my co-host Adrian. I got to get him to try to talk about some of this stuff. He has a very busy schedule. Talking about Inky being a product of parthenogenesis, or like the original in vitro fertilization, right?
Ooh.
And being an egg birth, apparently. And this goes into like the ancient aliens thing, dude, with the Pleiadian reptilian queen Maya having like a pact basically with Anu, who came from Sirius, her coming from Orion. There you get like Osiris, Osiris, Um,
Can you
so
tell me a little bit more about Anu, his origination?
yeah, man. Anu was a king on Nibiru, right? And like I've said, take that with a grain of salt. But so he basically, that is On. You'll see the name On more than Anu, and in Egypt he's Ani. This is in Zoroastrianism, Ahura Mazda. If you look at the depiction of Ahura Mazda, it's the exact same depiction of Anu in the Mesopotamian cuneiform. This is the father of Enlil and Ninmah. Now, we also have a theory on Elohim etymology that Enki wasn't directly his son, since he was an egg birth and came from like an asexual reproduction.
Did you say egg?
Yeah.
Huh.
I think I've told you this before, but you may not remember. Enki, Ea, or Poseidon, Nudamud, who I think is Samael, basically was an egg birth and has reptilian qualities to him. Yes.
Interesting. You said Ahura Mazda?
Ahura Mazda. Yeah, and this
Ahura
is,
Mazda.
obviously where the car name Mazda comes from.
Right.
There's some brand. I took a picture of it. I forgot what brand it was, but Ahura Mazda is literally their like logo for their brand. And Adrian found this one brand named Inky. It's like I think maybe like a tool company or electric equipment, maybe. But yeah, dude. So Anu basically wrestles for his kingship with this guy named Alelu, who I told y'all that is apparently what the face on Mars was built for. Also, Anzu, who we talked about earlier, some of these wind demons are depicted with the legs of Anzu.
Is this Ahura Mazda? He's Burju?
Yes.
It's depicted in The Simpsons.
Simpsons of the world.
Yeah, man.
Unbelievable. Actually, look, I just realized what time it is. It's 2:58. You have a show in 2 minutes with Shane Cashman, don't you?
No, in 30 minutes.
In 30 minutes. Okay, well, why don't we start doing this, because Top has something going on too. We should start to bring it in for a landing a little bit. It doesn't have to stop right now, but I just want to make everybody aware of our time constraints.
But yeah, Top, basically Anu is, well, it would be the same as Uranus or Kalius. I forgot the guy's name, and I think it's Greek or Roman. I always forget which one's which.
You know what's going to happen, Jules?
But you see him everywhere, though, and you see almost the same depiction of him on all these carvings. So he's pretty easy to trace around. He's always like the Sky Father.
Yeah, our friend Colin was in contact with something that called itself that. That's why I was asking when you brought it up.
And didn't you say that he was blue?
He said that, yeah.
Well, the Syrians, where Nibiru is supposed to be from, the Syrian, they're blue. From like whistleblowers and people who have experienced these ETs known as the Syrians. Apparently they're blue. So
he also said that he was made of like plasma, something like that, like plasma, like fire. which is interesting. I think Top had to drop out because he's got something going on. But yeah, when he brought it up, I mean, I know Anu was when you looked it up, it was like the angel of death or something like that. So definitely not good to be communicating with something like that. And
I'll have to look into that. And I mean, you think of the Hindu deities, they're all blue. You have Egyptian deities that are green, Ptah, Osiris, you know. There's a lot there, man. There's really so much. Like, we barely even scratched the surface when I first came on. So
yeah, well, I'd love to run it back. I mean, we you know, I was talking to you earlier, not to gas you up too much, but I don't think there's a lot of people in this conspiracy community that are looking at this specific thing that you're looking at, which is the through line, how to identify one deity from one culture to the next. And it's incredibly valuable to the picture that we're trying to paint, which is to say, maybe not paint, but like uncover. Feels like there's a big deception coming. The Bible says there's a big deception coming. The deception will be great. And I think it's of this nature. And I'm not saying that we have all the answers or all the pieces, you know, far from that, in fact. But your field of study, for lack of a better term, is one that is important to the conversation. And I don't see a lot of people doing. So, I mean, of course, we're going to have you back and we're going to make more content surrounding this. But I almost, you know, we're going to die. We're going to die because these things obviously have obfuscated their names through all these generations and all these eras of humanity. And I don't think that they're going to be pumped if we do figure out who's who and what their original names are. So I look forward one day to uncovering that with you, Jules, and then ending up dead swiftly afterwards. But we got to kind of bring it in for a landing now. I don't have access to the things because Top just dropped them, but let everybody know where they can find your work and support you.
Hell yeah, man. Thank you for having me on again, Raven, and Top, wherever you are in
our hearts and minds.
And yeah, there he is. Yeah, guys, Greypilled Pod on Twitter, X, whatever. Greypilled _podcast on Instagram. I've actually started using it a little more than I had been the past few months. So Rumble, YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. I say this every episode. I'm going to try to do my Spreaker later.
Yes.
Hopefully I get to that. I need to. Also, patreon.com. I see Robert Wolf said, thank you, Rob, thank you for subscribing, brother. I appreciate it. Won't let you down. For the Patreon, you get early access to the Elohim etymologies. We release those on there a week before they release to the public. I do Patreon only episodes on there that are always pretty fun. We just got done talking about esoteric symbolism in gang culture.
Oh, that's fascinating because I know like a little bit, like for whatever reason, the Bloods are a big fan of the pentagram, and like it gets really weird.
Bro, if you look into the GDs and the Vice Lords, you see the Vice Lords use Islamic symbolism and the GDs use the 6-point star, this Judaic symbolism. So it's like, there's a lot there. And also, you get the link to the Discord, bunch of other stuff. I got merch, hopefully coming soon. And if you subscribe to the highest tier on there, you get a free shirt when I first get merch, I promise you. But yeah, y'all can go over to patreon.com/Greypilled podcast. And Sound Science is going down in about 30 minutes over on my Rumble and the Paranoid American Rumble.
Very cool,
in
man.
YouTube, I think. But
looking forward to that. That's going to be a great mashup of the minds. One of my favorite things being part of this community is watching like the homies get together and do things. Big fan of what you do. Big fan of what Thomas does. Big fan of what Shane Cashman does. So I'll be catching that episode in the next half hour. I'll be out and about, but I'll have my headphones in. So I recommend you guys do the same and go and support Jules wherever you can. He's doing good work, and we're going to see a lot more of him in the future. But otherwise, guys, thank you, Jules, for your time. Thank you to the audience for watching. And I guess I'm top tonight. So don't forget to obey, submit, and comply. Peace out, guys.
The greatest hypnotist on planet Earth is a oblong box in the corner of the room. It is constantly telling us what to believe is real. If you can persuade me that what they see with their eyes is what there is to see, God. Because they'll laugh in the face of an explanation that portrays the bigger picture of what's happening. And they have.